Welcome back to Faith and Fiction Chat Live. This is the live series where some of our favorite Christian authors join me to talk about their latest books and how their faith inspires every page they write. I am your host, Angie Ochoa, otherwise known as the Introverted Bibliophile, and I'm so glad you've tuned in. Let's get our guest, Terri Rosa Fox, author of two wonderful historic Christian romantic suspense novels. Hey, Terri, how are you?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me for this. I'm so excited to talk to you and get to know you better. Just in case you don't know, Terri is one of the first people I made friends with here on Bookstagram, and I've just been so blessed by her friendship. So I'm so excited to be able to talk to you.
Me too. Me too.
So you have written how many books altogether,
Including the children's books.
including the children's?
So I've only written, so let's see, I've written three children's books. I've written the two romance novels. I have I have a middle grade book and another children's book as whips that I haven't finished for the past year
Okay.
because I don't want to have to finish the artwork. And then I've got my third romance novel that I'm working on right
Okay.
now.
So you said you don't want to finish the artwork. Is that you who's doing the artwork? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
I do my own artwork, and so at some point between four kids and running a business with my husband, trying to sit down and do artwork and make it actually look decent, kind of gets put on the back burner. So,
Uh, I understand that. I'm not so great with art. I can do really well with stick figures, so or I can trace really well.
there you go.
So, Terri, you are from North Carolina, is that correct?
Yes,
And
technically.
you is that where you live now?
That is where I live now. Yes,
Okay. Okay. And you're married and you have four kids. Tell us about your
yes.
family.
I don't know what there is to say. So I'm an only child. So the whole concept of having four kids was not originally the plan. I'm not around a lot of people, and all my relatives live in New Jersey, hence why my stories are based in New Jersey. And so it was literally my parents and I down here in North Carolina. So the idea of having four kids was not in my plan. God had other plans, but my plan was not four kids. And so my husband and I met at church. Um, he, I say this to him lovingly. He basically stalked me down, um, found me on MySpace after finding me at church. So, back when MySpace was a thing.
That's going
Um,
way back.
yes, yes. Um, and so his grandmother went to our church, and so he was at that church, and so that's how we met. And my oldest is 16 years old and just got his first job. And that's just weird to me to have a 16-year-old who's working, and it's
Yeah.
just weird. So,
Yeah.
but
I can imagine.
yeah, so I have two older boys who are teenagers, and then I have two girls who are elementary age.
Okay.
So yeah, we
Okay.
kind of have this end and this end. It's kind of nice.
Nice. And they're all probably at an age and stage where they can kind of fend for themselves and, grab lunch or whatever, breakfast on their own.
For the most part, my three oldest can. The baby of the house likes to be treated like the baby of the house. She's spoiled rotten. So,
Sure.
so it's oftentimes, Mom, can you do this for me? And I was like, I think you can do it yourself. But my 10-year-old, she had gotten tired of waiting on me to do certain things for her because I'm busy doing 50 million other things. And one day she was like, I'll just make myself lunch. And I was like, oh, okay, you know how to run the microwave. You know what to do. Great. So yeah, they're pretty much self-sufficient. So
Nice. Nice. Okay. So tell us about your giveaway. You are giving away a
one
choice.
ebook.
Yes.
Yes, between Where Warmth Waits or Where Grace Grows. And so an ebook of one of those choices. Yes.
Awesome. So this giveaway is done in a post that I posted on Tuesday. So if you haven't entered the giveaway yet, which you're going to want to do because the books are really good. I've only read the first one, but it was really, really good. Go back to Tuesday's post where you see Terry's face and go ahead and get entered to win. And speaking of the first book that I read, I totally felt like this was a vibe of Downton Abbey meets a young Hercule Poirot. It just was so good. And I don't know why I put off reading it for so long. I was like, okay, I'm going to get to it. Okay, I'm going to get to it. And then I finally got to it and I was like, oh, this was so good. So definitely get entered to win Terry's book. One or the other. If you haven't read the first one, grab the first one if you're the winner. If you haven't read the second one, but you've read the first one, then you get to choose. All right. So, what do you guys like to do as a family? Speaking of family.
We like to veg out. Both my husband and I are introverts, and so doing social things is, we're like, it's fine, we can stay home. But he also doesn't like just sitting at home doing nothing
Yeah.
all day. So when the weather is appropriate, as in I'm not going to die from heat stroke and we're not freezing to death, we like to go hiking. That's our
Okay.
one of our favorite things, hiking. There's a nice mountain range about 30 minutes up the highway. It's super convenient. And, and so we'll take the kids and do that. We do a lot with church, and so that keeps us busy. And so, but yeah, mostly it's vegging out and quality time.
Okay, you know what?
So,
I can hang with that because that's kind of how we are. I mean, occasionally we like to go fishing. My husband hasn't been able to as much because he has really bad carpal tunnel, but hopefully we'll be able to get out and go fishing soon because I enjoy that. My kids, not so much. Probably my youngest. The other two are like, "Huh, okay, sure, we'll go."
fine, Mom, fine.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I only have so much longer with them, so it's like I'll take what I can get.
Right.
So, how do you balance family time with writing, especially since you shared with me that you are an expert procrastinator like me?
Sadly, there's real no like balance. It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. In the past 2 weeks, we had Vacation Bible School last week, and this week has been recovery mode.
Yeah.
And and next week we're getting our ads ready for my husband's company. And so the balance really doesn't happen like I want it to, but my survival mode is my phone. I use the Notes app on my phone. So if we're sitting in line somewhere, or if we're just snuggling on the couch where I can't have my laptop, I can still be drafting and editing. And my mind has to be in the right spot. If my mind is too tired or exhausted, it's not happening. For me, this is a joy and I love doing it and I want to continue doing it, but I'm not going to put pressure on myself to get it all done within a certain time frame
Is
because
that why you
it's just not
indie
going to work.
published?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the reasons. And two, I've heard people when they try to do queries, like it's a lot, and I was like, I just want my book out, and so I'm going to self-publish. We're going to go with it that way and see what happens. So,
Yeah. That's probably what I would have to do too, because I don't work well with deadlines. I'm like up to the last minute procrastinating and going, you know what? I really need to buckle down and get this done. And then that doesn't always work so well. So
right, right.
I kind of get it. I kind of get it. So what does your family think about your books and your writing?
My teenage boys really don't care. They're
Of
teenage
course,
boys.
they're
They're like,
teenage
whatever.
boys.
But my oldest, he also likes to write, and so he's like, well, if mom can write, then I can. And I was like, yes, but I can't make a living off of it yet. So
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
another plan instead.
Yeah.
Um, my girls, they like my children's books when I put them out. They're cute little supporters. I have a little stuffed animal I should have put it out of my little hamster Squeak, and
Uh,
the girls each have one. And so, and then my husband, he's very supportive. He is not a reader though. So if you ask him to sit down and read a book, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But he's super supportive though. He wants me to continue to pursue it, and gives me the opportunity. Like if I go upstairs, it's 8 o'clock at night, and I was like, I really need to sit down and just write a little bit. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll put on a movie on the background. I'll rub your feet, and you can work while we chill out. So he's like, as long as you're with me,
Yeah.
it's fine if you're going to sit there and write. So that makes it easier. So super
Yeah.
supportive.
It's nice when our husbands are our biggest fans.
Yes.
I love that. So when did you start your writing journey? Like, did you always know that you wanted to write, or is it just kind of a more recent thing?
It's definitely a more recent thing. Well, I did write some poetry and stuff back in high school and college, but it was more of like the therapy kind of concept. It was me getting my feelings and my thoughts out and just kind of processing. Never intentionally like I'm going to become this, thing. I started writing the children's books back in 2022, 2023. Um, my oldest son was going through some stuff when he went to public school. And
Mhm.
granted, he's a teenager. I still put it as a younger kid's level because it
Yeah.
affected him. There were things he was struggling with from fifth grade on. And
Uh,
so it was kind of a story that I wanted to tell about somebody who could get past those struggles kind of thing. And so that's how the children's books came about.
okay.
Me writing a romance, Christian romance novel was not in the books at all. It happened by complete chance. I was at a restaurant with my family, and there was a sign on the wall. It was a like breakfast restaurant, and it was like mom, mother, maid. And
Okay.
my kids thought it was hilarious because, oh yeah, mom, mother, maid. And so my sarcastic kid looked at me and was like, Mom, mother, maid, and I was like, murder. and, and that's how my first book happened. I was like, wait, that might be a fun book to write.
Yeah.
Like was not the plan at all ever.
Oh my goodness. But
So
there was obviously something in you that needed to come out because that was really good.
yeah.
So are these books based on like a real life event, a historical like event or place?
So yeah, so that's a fun question. So, the actual place of Albrook, that is where our story takes place in New Jersey, is fictional. However, it is based off a real town in New Jersey called Ringwood, New Jersey, where I lived
Okay.
a long time ago. They didn't have their first street light until like the late 1990s, early 2000s. So, but they had two large manors,
Oh, wow.
um, like mansion style manors.
Yeah.
They had Ringwood Manor and then Skylands Manor. So it's so funny because at Skyline, Skyline is actually a street in Ringwood, New Jersey. So Skyline Manor is a play on the street as well as Skylands.
Gotcha.
And so the place is a real place. The stories themselves are not real, but they come from pieces of history that I've learned about my relatives. None of
Okay.
them were made in a manner, but the experiences that some of them have had kind of peek in a little bit. And
Okay.
so, my relatives did live in that area, at that time. They lived in Silk Row, which is actually Paterson, New Jersey, was a very industrial place. And so that's the other part. And I can trace back in our census records, late 1800s, early 1900s of when my family immigrated here. So there's pieces of that in the stories. But
Okay. All right. So I want to backtrack a little bit. I also want to add, and I want to ask this first, I think. Um, because of all the bits and pieces that come from where you live, what does your research journey look like? Like, how long did it take you to research and what kind of things did you do? to write these books?
So so I'll go ahead and tell you. So part of it is, there is a lot out there about Ringwood Manor and Skylands Manor. There's
Okay.
like a lot. They have historical stuff. It's there, and so thankfully that makes that part easier. In terms of Paterson, New Jersey, again, there's a lot out there. In my second book, I actually talk about some discrimination issues with Italians,
Wow.
and there is articles and documentation specifically in Paterson and the
Wow.
things that were happening in Paterson and in New Jersey that had to do with that. And so some of it's Googling. I will also say nobody put me on the stakes, but I do use ChatGPT for some research. But anytime I do it, it's back it up with actual data. It's
Sure.
never, it's never, oh, I'm going to take what you say and actually legitimately. So sometimes I'm like, okay, what plants are natural in that area and it'll tell me, and then I'll go back and research it on myself or Google. So it's kind of like, it kind of puts it here.
Yeah.
So I'm not having to find it everywhere and take as many hours. It just
Yeah.
kind of squeezes it in. On book 3 that I'm working on, I'm trying to bring in some extra music too, and I found a newspaper copy of a newspaper article with the radio station showtimes
Wow.
for New York. And then it also talked about Philadelphia and things like that. And then from that, I was like, okay, we're in this place in New Jersey, which isn't that far from New York.
Yeah.
And it said that it would have reached, it would have been staticky, but it would have reached. And I was like, okay, so I can see the actual shows and be like, at this time of the day, this comedy show was playing. The
Wow.
likelihood is that was playing in the radio. And so it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of just doing my research and knowing where to find it because it's New Jersey and I love New Jersey. Had I not met my husband, I probably would have found a way to move back to New Jersey. um, but, and all my relatives are still up there, so I'm like, still, I miss New Jersey. But
You
and
left
then
your heart
part of
in
it,
New Jersey.
it's always there. It's always
Like
there.
the
It's
song,
okay.
right? I left my heart in San Francisco. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ah,
But and then of course the chat GPT just kind of brings it together so I know where to look. So it's like, okay, so you're telling me that's the kind of hat they wore. Show me that somewhere, and then I
yeah.
go back to
Yeah.
Google and look it up. So
Okay. So it kind of streamlines your process a little or a lot.
yes,
Yeah.
a
Okay.
lot because trying to research it all on Google would have taken a
A
very long
long
time
time.
without without being streamlined. So
Right. And I know a lot of authors read books that are like historical books that tell, like nonfiction, right? That tell about.
right.
Is that something that you do as well?
I've done some of it for local here in North Carolina. I've
Okay.
not done it for New Jersey,
Okay.
but I'm very visual, so I like pictures.
Yes.
So I'm always looking on public domain. There's like 4 different public domain websites that have like archival images and things like that. Plus the Hewitts who lived, I think they were Ringwood Manor. Sorry, I have to think because there's 2 manors in Ringwood.
Yeah.
So the Hewitts, there is so much documentation on them and their lives. And not only that, so lakes, a lot of the lakes in America they're not natural. And that it's the same for like Ringwood, New Jersey, but it's
Okay.
all documented online. So I've read, but it's not necessarily like nonfiction novels about the
Yeah.
area, but I'm
Yeah.
always looking for articles and research papers and historical information that kind of outlines. There's legit a website for Ringwood that literally goes through the history of when each lake was made and who made it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so when
I
I
mean, that's
talk
so
about
random, right?
I know it is random. It is random, but I was bringing it into book 3, and I was like, oh, and I was like, okay, yep. And then I went on Google Maps, and I was like, how far is that from the estate?
Yeah.
what, what would the travel time be? And so obviously travel time now is much different than then. But yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. So it's interesting that you said that you're visual because as I'm reading books or I'm listening to books and they describe an article of clothing, I, I have to look. I have to look it up. I'm like, oh, what is that? I don't know that I know. Because like a bowler hat, I know what a bowler hat is. I know what a
Right.
cloche looks like, but some other hats, I'm like, oh, I need to know what this is, so I'll look up
Right.
different things. And I absolutely love the clothing from the early part of the 1900s. It's just,
Yeah.
there's something about it that's just like very romantic, more so in probably the wealthier families, not so much in the poor families, because
Right, right.
but so speaking of that time period, tell us a little bit about um, the era that your books are set in, and then without obviously giving too many spoilers, give us a little synopsis of each book.
Okay. So it's set in 1932, so the crash has already happened, but it's still affecting everything.
Yeah,
Most people, unless they were of the wealthy status, they were still suffering in many, many ways. And even the wealthy had to make changes. I did research. I mentioned that Silk Row is based off Paterson, New Jersey. And when we say silk, it was called it was called Silk City specifically because many of the factories were producing silk
yeah,
before the crash. After the crash, they had to switch over to like rayon and some other things because otherwise they weren't going to survive because no one was buying silk.
right,
Um, so it's 1932, and if you didn't live in a wealthy home or had protection of a wealthy home, you were struggling. Um, I think you probably saw it less further north in these rural towns because they were more closed in, they weren't affected, but everybody's affected.
uh,
And so the story takes place in the first story, Where Warmth Waits, takes place in February of 1932. The second one takes place in the spring.
okay,
So the first book, Where Warmth Waits, the main character is May. She is a widowed mother of twins,
yes,
and she had been taken on as a parlor maid. And there it is.
yeah,
And the situation unfolds where there is a travesty that's happened. She's initially blamed, and then they research it to find the actual culprit. Again, I'm not trying to give away too much, but essentially, this gentleman who had known her forever
yeah.
had come back because he happened to know people in that family, and then there's love.
So
You know,
he's
it's like
kind of
second
that.
chance for him. Yeah,
Yeah, so he's kind of the young Hercule Poirot kind of character, the
yeah,
detective. So I
yes.
love how you did this story between May and Leland because um, there is that second chance, and there is that realization that, oh, wait, before, what was it like? Like, I don't want to give away the spoilers.
Right, right, right. No, yes. But it's so
People
much, it
are
was so
reading.
much fun to write. It was so much
Yeah,
fun to write and like to make that work and try to make it believable too, you know. Um, and that was probably the most complex part. And there's nuances now in our modern times.
yeah,
Widows and children and remarrying and staff and servants, completely different dynamic than back
definitely.
then.
Yeah,
There was so much more stigma associated with all those pieces, and so I wanted to make sure I pulled that in as well.
yeah,
Um, and so that was definitely, again, there's family history that I know enough about in my family where I know that there was stigma on
yeah,
certain things.
of course.
And so therefore I've never had to live through those stigmas, but I could kind of understand why the choices were made for certain things. So,
Yeah.
um, and then book two, which you haven't read yet,
No,
Where Grace Grows, is about Dottie, and she is in a situation
she was in
that
book one.
she is in book one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, book one, I had not intended on writing more books when I started book one. It kind of, and and to be fair, Dottie was supposed to be the end all villain in book one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for whatever reason it happened where God was like, no, no, she needs a redemption. She needs
Yeah.
a redemption arc. She needs something more. And it's so funny that I did this because I had people reach out saying I cried because I've been in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And
I
so
have.
I was like, okay. Yeah. And so God
Yeah.
kind of used that as an opportunity for people to see. And that's what book two continues.
Oh, I can't
So
wait to read it then. I was a
you
single
got to read.
mom. Yeah. I was a single
Yeah.
mom. I was an unwed mom. And so, yeah, I totally want to read Dottie's story. All right. So here's where we're going to jump back a little bit. I want to talk about your relationship with Jesus. When did that start and how did it kind of come about?
Well, my parents did not go to church when we lived in New Jersey. I know this is going way back when I was like a child.
That's
Um,
okay.
they so our story led us to North Carolina by happen chance. My uncle lives actually 5 minutes away from me now.
Oh,
Um, and it was just him. He got married to a woman who was born and bred here in our city in North Carolina. She's I think she was Winston-Salem. She might have been Lexington. Anyway, I digress. So they live 5 minutes away. They lived 5 minutes away when we moved here. And we had come down there for their wedding. And on our way home, my parents decided, I think we should move to North Carolina.
wow.
And at that time, they weren't going to church. They really weren't following God. They were probably on the brink of a divorce. There
Uh,
were all sorts of pieces that were just not working.
yeah.
And pulling us out of that and moving us down here kind of rescued their marriage. We started
Wow.
going to church. Um, I was saved at a funeral, mostly because
Okay, that's a new one.
I I have very weird anxiety about funerals. I always have, I always will. And I was just done. And I got in the car, and the funeral was not over. They were still at the gravesite, like doing their thing. And I was in the car, and I was like, God, forgive me, And that's kind of how my salvation started for myself. And
How old were you?
it's goodness,
You
I
can
was
give a
elementary.
generalization
Yeah,
like
it was
elementary
elementary.
school.
I was
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
elementary age. So it was probably 9 or 10 years old, probably.
Okay.
So and we went to that church for a long time, and my heart was set in missions, but I only did domestic, like stateside missions.
Sure.
So like inner
Okay.
city and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And my heart's still there. That's not where it led when we got married and everything else. And so I've always been at church since we moved to North Carolina. And
Okay.
now, like I said, I met my husband at church, and his story was a little bit more colorful than mine. And
It
but it was
happened.
definitely a God it happens. But it definitely was a God thing that he met me, and that, he started going to church with his grandmother again. And um, we lead our mornings with prayer and Bible time. It's so funny, if he makes a sale, so he sells metal sheds and
Okay.
garages and stuff. And if he makes a sale, he'll stop and praise God after each one. He starts his day with his sales reps with prayer.
Love that. I love that.
It's just, so when we talk about our faith, a lot of it's just bathed in prayer.
Yeah.
Um, and just the constant gratefulness for the things that God has provided, the our situations and the things that we've had to go through have not been the worst, but they've also not been the easiest. But we've seen God's hand in those steps. And I think that's made the biggest difference with everything. And so um, it's just kind of funny, he took a pay cut. We had 3 kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, and he took a pay cut of half his income.
Oh.
And this is before number 4. And I had,
Oh.
and we were like, okay, God, we're going to trust you on this. We don't know what's happening. We're going to trust you. This is the door that opened up. We're going to walk through it. And I happened to make a joke, watch God get us pregnant, and then God laughed. you
Ah.
know. And God's like, yep, I'll see
Yeah.
that one. And so, so
How
when I
much
think
how
about
much
our,
do you really trust me?
I had to trust him a lot on that
Yeah.
one. You know, and so he's like, oh, okay, so you trust me. All right, here you go. And so, and through all of it, it's just that concept of watching God's provision, and I'm not a prosperity gospel person. This is not a,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, you do this, you're going to have everything.
No.
But I've
Yeah.
seen his hand providing for us our
Yeah.
needs that we've needed when we needed them. So,
I love that you shared that because I feel like the more I hear things like this about God's faithfulness, the more my own faith grows because
yeah,
we've been through some stuff. I mean, we've been married for 22 years and the things that we've gone through have been some really difficult times. Like we went through some really, really lean times early on in our marriage. And, we've never gone through anything that has brought us to the brink of divorce ever. That's just like never, ever going to happen in our marriage.
right.
We made vows, but we have gone through the death of a child. I mean, he wasn't a child, but my biological son, who Michael, my husband, this is the only father he's ever known, right? Um, that was hard, but God was so good. He's been so faithful. And, he's carried us even through the past few years. Michael's been dealing with the carpal tunnel and he got laid off from his job where he had been almost 34 years last summer. And we're like, God, what are you doing? How are we going to do this? But also, I didn't feel like Michael should be working anymore because of the carpal tunnel, because he was working at a computer. And so we're like, okay, God, we really got to trust you. And then for some reason, our medical insurance got cut off for like 3 months. And we're going, what is going on? How are we going to do this? And then our car started having problems and, all these things. And it's just like, okay, God, we trust you. We trust you. So it's always so good to hear other people's stories of his faithfulness. And he has just blessed us beyond measure. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's
Okay.
amazing. Okay, so speaking of God, you have brought your own faith into your writing. How do you feel like your Christian faith shapes your storytelling?
Well, and I've said this before, when I started these books, I actually had no intention of being this faith-filled. I was like, I'll weave it in kind of subtly, it'll be
Yeah,
there because I didn't want to like marginalize and this is a Christian book.
right.
And as I'm writing and I'm putting forth these words, God was kind of like, and you're going to write this now. And I was like, okay, so it is a Christian book because
Okay.
I guess for me, it's the concept of it's so part of our lives. Like I mentioned, we start our day in this, we bathe our things in prayer. I strive for joyful living as best I can. With teenage sons, that's not always easy. But
I
I do,
understand. I
but I do
do.
my best to, but I do my best to find the joy in those moments as best
Yeah,
I can, and I've gotten better with throughout the years. And so, because God's hand has been in so much of our lives, I can't not write it.
yeah,
It's just going to be there, and so there's no real plan necessarily in terms of well, now as I've gotten further along, as these characters have come to life in the first book, I was like, I know that this person's struggling with this, and so we're gonna go this way with it. The original story, it's God just kind of was like, and here's what you're gonna say. My
yeah.
husband's being weird
Wow.
back here. Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay. Hi, husband.
He's start making weird stuff, so I'm just like, okay. Anyway, but so sorry. Anyway,
It's
okay, I digress. Real living here, real living.
that's right.
So so yeah, with Where Warmth Waits, it was really just God's like, and here's what you're gonna say here, and you're gonna fill this part with me.
Yeah.
And because that's what our life is, and I can't not do it. I wasn't gonna do it, and God's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do it anyway." So I'm like, okay. So
It's kind of funny because none of my other authors have not said the exact same thing. The ones that I've interviewed have all said it's just such an integral part of my life. My faith is everything to me. And so it just automatically comes out. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that I'm going to have an author that's going to go, oh yeah, I just decided to make it a Christian book just to, reach more people or whatever.
right, right.
So, okay. So, which character in your book, and let's talk about Where Warmth Waits, because I'm familiar
Yeah.
with that one. Which character or characters were the hardest to write and why?
Well, the Straffords. The Straffords are the actual patriarch or matriarch of the estate
Yeah,
household. I've never been affluent.
yeah,
I did not live in the 1930s. I've never been a factory owner. So being able to visualize them and how they would act and how they react was a little bit harder. However, of course, all the period films and all the period movies and books,
sure.
I kind of get a glimpse of what it would be like, but they were definitely the hardest. And you'll see it more as we go along in the stories, but to humanize them. They're not just this flat character who,
Right.
is this patriarch and this is his attitude. There's a human piece to him that's more than just that.
Yeah.
And I kind of hinted at that with one of the other, not Frederick Strafford. He was easy to write because he's awesome. But
I was going to say that.
with his with his sister Daphne, there's little hints of things where you start seeing her not just as a spoiled, you know, heiress. There's
Right.
more, and that comes out further down the line in some of the other stories. And so the goal is to not just make them this flat, this is their attitude and this is how they are, but make them more humanized. So they're the most difficult.
But
Oh my goodness.
that mother, she was something else. And I feel like it's so funny because I feel like when I read books where there is a very wealthy family, I feel like there's something about the mother that's like this very high sense of entitlement and very hoity-toity. And so sometimes those mothers are really easy to not like.
Right, right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So it's definitely she was easy to make not likable, and so were a couple
Yeah.
other characters. But but
But you
but
did well. You
and-
did so well with Frederick. Like just the
yeah,
compassion in him and just the humanness of him. He just was this very compassionate person, and he actually cared about the servants and didn't treat them in a bad way. And so that was really nice to see that there was this one person with redeeming qualities in
right.
his family.
All the Stratfords are not terrible, okay? They're not all
Yeah.
terrible.
But when you can do that well, it's amazing because it can really draw the reader in and give them such strong emotions in that story. It's like I love
Yeah.
that when it you can evoke such emotion with your characters. That's like tip top for me. Yeah. Do you think that any of this writing has challenged your faith in a specific way?
Not not like in a deep way, not in a deep way.
Okay.
Um, you know, like I said, there's always been inside of me a compassion for, the inner city or the lower thans. And so for me though, the compassion for those who are more well off, I think is the only thing. Like, because they're human too. They're not just,
Yeah.
there's more to the story. And I think that's always what I strive to think about is no person is a flat character.
Yeah.
So like an example, my son, his third day of work was today, and he was like, Mom, this guy was so mad because I made a mistake. Third
Oh.
day of work, and this was a customer, and I said, there's got to be more to his story as to
Yeah.
why he's having a bad day. And so the concept that I think that's the biggest piece for me is when I'm diving into these fictional characters, it's not, and yes, we see humans and they've got so much going on, but it helped me look at it more because I'm having to create that depth myself to stop and
Yeah.
think, what depth are these people dealing with that I'm seeing every day? So I
Yeah,
think
because if you
that's
think about the mother, like I said, in a situation like that, maybe she has fears that are tied with security. Maybe she didn't have security in her own family or has seen it where, wealth equals security. And so that definitely could create, things in her own mind that lead her to act the way that she does. So makes total sense. Makes total sense. I love the housekeeper. Remind me of her name.
so. Nell Brower.
Yes, I knew it started with a B, but I was like, is it Burton? Is it what is it? I love her as a character. I just feel like, she knew that she needed to maintain propriety within the Stratford home, but she also had such a tenderness in her heart for Nell or I mean, I'm sorry, for May and for her girls.
Right.
And it just showed, and her faith showed so strongly. And there were other characters too. Um, an Italian family,
Yes.
the cook,
So,
the cook.
yes,
Yes.
Carmela.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I love their family too. That was such a
She's
sweet,
so awesome.
yeah, that
You're
dynamic was
gonna
just,
see, just so you know, if you read book two, you're gonna see a whole lot more of that family.
okay. It's not a if, it's a when. So when I read book two, and I will. I will. Some of these characters were just so, so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the whole romantic suspense thing because so far you're my first romantic suspense author that I've talked
Okay.
to. So, what's harder to write? The action and suspense scenes or like the emotional romantic scenes?
Definitely the suspense part is the hardest for me.
Okay.
Like I said, my husband just came down the stairs being weird. We've got plenty of romance. We're good. I could write that. My poor kids are traumatized. But, so I think for me, it's definitely the suspense portion, and the action portion, and that fear inside that. And a lot of that again comes from some of the history and the stories that I know from our family. And so that's kind of helped a little bit. But that is definitely the hardest piece because I can have anxiety on my own and I can have my own natural fears. But to be put in those kind of situations, I had to like visualize what that would really feel like, what
Okay.
that panic would be. So yeah, definitely the suspense is harder.
Are you like a mystery, like suspense reader
I
or,
am, but it has to
okay.
have romance. And it needs
Yeah,
to be
yeah, yeah.
romantic suspense. I gotta have. I don't know why. I just need that. So, but no, I do love mysteries, and I love. I'm a lot. Okay, I'm a logic problem person.
Okay.
I love figuring out puzzles.
Oh, okay.
So like the Who Done It and Where Warmth Waits, that was so much fun for me because it's a puzzle. It's like, well, who really did it? You know what I mean? And figuring that out. And so I love those pieces to it. I don't necessarily like
Yeah.
the gruesome gore stuff and
Yeah.
but
I'm the same.
I like who yeah, but I like who does it. I like figuring out the puzzle and
Yes.
coming up with the answer. There used to be these books. back when I was younger where you could pick the outcome by making
Yes.
different choices, and
Yep.
it would be a completely different ending. And so those were always fascinating. So that's kind of what drives this. It's not so
Okay.
much the mystery, it's the logic behind it and figuring that out. And but yes,
Okay.
if I read it, if I read any suspense or mystery, it's got to have some romance to it to make it fun.
That makes
So
sense. I've read quite a few of Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot mysteries, and there's not, there's some romance in there, but it's more the suspense. So I absolutely love romantic suspense. They're just that's one of my top two genres. The historical Christian fiction is the other. So
oh, so
this
my
was
book
like a
has all of it.
right. This was a good marriage of both. So I love that. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Okay, so what do you feel makes a hero truly swoon worthy in Christian fiction?
Respect.
Okay.
I know that's super easy, but you'll see it probably more in book two. But let me go ahead and just tell you. Yeah, there's a lot of swoon worthiness in there. It's the respect and the protection combined. It's that, you know,
Yeah.
so my husband worries. I I went out a couple weeks ago and met Kim Griffith, Kim Griffith, and then Carrie Cotton and
Yeah.
Heather Wood
Ah,
they were all in Winston-Salem, which is
yeah.
literally 10 minutes down the road, and they had gone to a homeschool conference. And
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are literally in my town.
Yeah.
Let's meet up.
Awesome.
And so my husband, I love him. He's like, how can you trust that they're okay? Like,
Ah,
are you he's protective. He wants to make sure his wife is
yes.
safe. And
Yes.
so that to me makes a hero because granted I was like, I'm going anyway because I'm not really worried about these people. The fact that he took the time to care and worry and express those worries.
Yeah.
But then the respect portion was I still went.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't like I'm not letting you go. And
Right.
so
Right.
um so those it's the mixture of the two of those pieces, I think. In general, I watch it with him with my daughters and how protective he is with them.
Oh,
Making sure that they are cared for and things like that, but also respects the fact that they are who they are and they're going to be who they are within reason.
yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Why do you think romance is such a powerful vehicle in faith-based storytelling?
Ooh, I love that question. Because if it's done right, is a reflection of God's love for us.
Yeah.
We all yearn for that deep-seated love, feel,
Yeah.
you know, home, comfort, secure. And so I feel like, as an expression of God's love to his children, I feel like that's why romance is such a big thing because we want that hope
Yes.
that we can have that same feeling as well. And we
Yeah.
have it. It's just that constant, ooh, let me have more, So
Yeah.
that's what I think at least.
What do you think? Tell me what you think about, because I know that there's a lot of um, romance in secular novels, but I feel like so much of it out there is done in a way that, first of all, is not good. Like there's a lot of garbage out there. And my husband and I have actually talked a lot recently about how so much secular romance is basically pornography. Like there's no way around it. I mean, you can call it smut, you can call it spicy, but it's pretty much pornography.
Right.
But there's and I don't know. I haven't read enough of those, like, and I don't ever intend to. I used to way back in my early 20s. I kind of read Harlequin romances, and I just they felt kind of icky to me, so I kind of
Right.
quit reading them. Um, but I kind of feel like there's a distinction in Christian romance versus secular romance because of that seeing the parallel between the love of God for us and the romance between a man and a woman in a Christian fiction book. Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
I think, with secular stories, whether they're full on telling you everything or whether they're closed door or anything, they push that boundary line of what shouldn't stay in our minds.
Yeah,
Um, sorry, my battery died on there. So,
that's okay.
um, so I definitely feel like it's different because there's a different level of respect for that relationship in Christian books. I
Yeah,
think a lot of secular romance stories, it really wants you to feed on that hype. That there's something with the mind when you read that stuff. That's why it's
yeah,
so addictive. That's why it's so addictive, and it just
yeah,
feeds that mind. And so when you read these secular stories that push that boundary line, it's because it's feeding that addiction, that excitement in people's
right.
brains.
That
Whereas with
dopamine hit.
yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Zooming.
yeah,
Whereas with Christian romance, there's a different level of respect for the relationship. You can still have that romance. You can still have that yearning because it's true. God yearns for us. He
yeah,
longs for us.
yes,
Like a bride. I mean, he considers Israel his bride.
yeah,
So when you think about that, we should still have that longing and that yearning and everything, but it needs to be done in a respectful manner because we don't need to feed our minds with the dopamine hit.
right. And I honestly feel like there's such an emptiness, a sense of emptiness in a lot of secular books. And I don't mean to call anybody out, I won't, but there's a very popular author of secular books. She has quite a few of them over different periods of time, like from, I think, the 70s, from the Depression era, from World War II. And I feel like I've read three of her books, three of her books. And while they're mostly clean, and I think some people think that she's a Christian author, she's not. But there was such a sense of hopelessness. There was like absolutely no redemption whatsoever in her stories. It just left me feeling just so anxious. And I was like, I don't like this. I'm going to go back to just reading like mostly Christian or mostly clean anyways. Um, I couldn't read any more of her stories
Right.
because of that. So yeah. Okay. I know that we are running out of time. I've kept you a really long time and I'm so
It's okay.
thankful. But I do have some fun questions to ask you,
Okay.
if that's okay.
It's fine.
So, all right, first question. What's your favorite genre to read?
Romance, Christian romance
Christian
specifically.
romance. Of course. Of
Of
course.
course.
Are you reading anything right now?
I have started Meredith Oswalt's He Chose Me.
Okay.
Um, and so, but I haven't finished it yet. So that's what I'm reading right now.
And when is that set? What time period?
So I think because I just opened it up.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it's historical necessarily, but it's definitely it's Christian. So,
Okay.
um, and she lives 30 minutes away from me, so I
Nice.
probably need to read her book.
Okay. I've heard of it. I haven't picked it up yet, but I definitely have heard of it. All right. What is a book that you've read recently that got 5 stars from you and why?
Okay, recently. Oh my goodness. So just as a note, because my brain has been dead for the past few weeks. Um, so I'm trying to think of what was the most recent read that got 5 stars. Oh my goodness.
I mean, it could be like 6 months ago. I like
Yeah,
anything.
okay.
Yeah.
I can tell you my favorite book.
Okay. Let's do that.
And it's not Christian romance, but it is clean. It's called Cinder Luna, by
Oh, I've heard of that.
Marisol. It's
Okay.
it's a romantic, so it's a rom-com,
Okay.
but it's also a retelling of
Oh,
course,
okay.
Cinderella.
Cinderella. Sure.
And okay, yes, it's insta love. It's insta love. I know people do not like insta love, but it is. But it's written so well. The
Okay.
way they wrote the insta, it's not like cringe, like oh, like what's happening,
Yeah.
So, but it is. It's clean. So I
Okay.
enjoyed that one. And then I like anything Mandy Blake.
Okay. I haven't read her yet. I need
You
to.
haven't?
She's on
Oh,
my TBR. She is in my jar of new to me authors, so I need to
okay.
pull her name out.
Yes, yes. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, sorry, I couldn't give you a
No,
clean answer. My brain is like,
that's
yep,
okay.
sorry.
That's okay. You know, you did VBS and you're on rescue mode right now. So, all right. Next question. Favorite place to go on vacation?
Okay, that's a good question. So we usually go to the beach once a year, or twice a year. This year it'll only be once. Um, my in-laws have a house directly on the beach, and so like literally just straight shot. It's private and everything else. So we love going there. That's probably the place we go the most. However, if I had a choice, I'd be in the mountains,
Okay.
hanging out in a lake somewhere, because it's just for me that's more comfortable. But as a
Yeah.
family, we typically go to the beach.
Either one sounds nice to me. Sounds nice. All right. Last question. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? It can be a TV show. It can be a food. It can be whatever.
So, um, I am gluten free,
Okay.
because of an autoimmune, and my guilty pleasure is bread, but you can't find good gluten-free bread. So every once in a while, when I'm weak, I cannot, I'm
Yep.
going to take that bread. I know I shouldn't. I'm going to regret
Yep.
it later. So that's probably one of my guilty pleasures. But I have been surviving off of. It's not Pringles. It's the Lay's Stacks.
Okay.
It's like Pringles, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
not. So
Yeah.
Pringles have wheat in them.
Oh, okay. I
Stacks
didn't
do
know
not.
that.
Yes, stacks
Ah.
do not. And so I literally buy 4 canisters a week. And I go through them so fast because they're like my fix. They're my
Yeah.
fix.
I know you told me that sweets are tolerable, that you'll tolerate sweets, but you really crave the carbs. So I
Yeah.
totally get that. I can't do bread either, but every now and then I do. And then my body hates me for it, but I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, give me sourdough, please. I love sourdough bread.
Yes.
So, oh my goodness. Well, Terri, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. This has been so much fun.
Well, thank you for having me. It has been fun, definitely.
Of course. Be sure that if you're watching and you haven't already gone and entered Terri's giveaway, to go enter, because you can win an ebook of either Where Warmth Waits or Where Grace Grows. It's your choice. And it's open internationally as long as you can get an ebook like Kindle, right? Yes,
Yes.
Kindle version. And I just wanted to thank all of you who have watched this interview. Be sure that you're following me here on Instagram, because I have more amazing authors coming up next month. You're not going to want to miss. I have 2 scheduled so far, that everybody's going to know their names. So please don't miss. And then if you're watching me on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Terri.
Thank
Have
you.
a blessed weekend.
You too, dear.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye.